back to the channel, everyone. Just a quick one. I've been trying to track down the owners of this car, as you can see here. I absolutely love the final look at this car, and after doing a lot of research, I've managed to get hold of the actual owner of this car. This one is actually out in Spain and it enters rallies. It's a huge shout out to the owners of the car. I won't mention them because I haven't got approval for them to use their details, but the lady I've been speaking to has been a great help. I can't thank her enough. She's put me in touch with the company who produce the decals for them, so I'm going to be getting in touch with them and trying to get them in. But I think you'll agree the car looks absolutely brilliant. You can see why this is the goal I'm aiming for with the finished product for my own. Not only that, the lady actually sent me a video of them recently entering a rally, which is about to come up now, and it sounds absolutely brilliant. It's about to start now, so I'll leave you to it, and I hope you enjoy today's video.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Merry Christmas to you all. It's the 27th today and I'm pretty anxious because I'm going to be putting the cylinder head back on the engine today and hopefully getting it all timed up, etc. Yeah, as I said, pretty anxious, but I'll talk you through what I've got and what I've been up to and what I've had done. So last time, I think on the last video I had an issue with the inlet side of the cylinder head, in that there was some damage to the face here. I took it to a local shop and he did a blob of aluminium weld on here and there. I'll insert the photos here so you can see what it was like before. So he put some aluminium weld on there and there was a little bit of a raise, so I took it to a local shop and they've had the inlet side skimmed for me, so it's nice and flush, which has obviously leveled out these lumps that were on there. And whilst he was doing that, he also did the exhaust side. As you can see, it's looking perfect, looking really good. And at the same time, he's done the head gasket side. And as you can see, that's looking really good. So really happy with the work that's been done there, which now means I can refit the cylinder head. So the first thing for me to now do is, I've given it another clean over this morning, is to refit the buckets and the shims, all the shims that are inside there. So what you're going to see me do on time lapse now is take each one of these and replace them back into the cylinder head the way they came out. So if I move the table over to here, this is exactly the way it came out. So I'm going to rebuild it so each of the buckets goes back in the same spot. Hopefully the shim clearances are going to be fine. I've got a tool here to check the clearances. If not, I'll have to get some of the shims and put them in, which will hold at play, but I'll check the distances that we've got on this piece of paper here. So fast road, PUMA. So there we go, lift valve clearance 0.008 to 0.012 clearance. So I'm sure I've got that on here, I'll check in a bit. But for now, let's start rebuilding this up. Just to mention as well, I was going to reuse the head gaskets, which is just not a very good idea. So what I've done is I've put two brand new head gaskets, one off Allen, so thanks very much for that, and another one, the same make, from a local Motor Factors. So let's get the buckets in, then I'll position the first head gasket on here, followed by the compression plate, followed by the other head gasket, and then I can lift this cylinder head into position on top of it, and then I can start having a look at putting the head bolts in, using obviously the correct torque spec settings and order to do them. It goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so you tighten up the head equally so it goes inwards and outwards to make sure you get correct seal. And yeah, then it'll be a case of putting the cams on and starting looking at getting it timing up. So let's put you on time lapse for now, and let's see how the cleaning of the buckets goes and fitting of the shims. So wish me luck, because as I said, I'm pretty anxious about this bit because it's not something I've done before. And the other thing is I've bought some assembly lube. which you need to do for when you first start the engine up. Everything's lubed up correctly until the oil pressure goes through. So I'll be putting assembly lube in all of these areas here when I rebuild it back up. But for now, let's put you on time lapse and let's start rebuilding the cylinder head. Okay, that's those in. What you may have seen me doing there is on each bucket I was just putting a little blob of oil on the edge of the bucket, and as I've watched another video, is when putting these in you shouldn't be forcing them in, they should just slide in. Just keep working them until they slide in nicely. If you try to wedge them in, they get stuck, then you're gonna have difficulty getting them out and they're gonna get damaged. So after watching Jimmy Oakes' video recently, he put all his buckets in and he picked up his head and he went to look at the bottom before placing it onto the engine and putting the gaskets in, and he turned it upside down and all the buckets fell out. So I've taken note of that and I don't want to do that. But one last thing you've got to do is check, is just to make sure there's nothing on the face here at all. I'm going to glass little wipe over, make sure there's nothing in between before lifting it up and placing it on. So what you're about to see me do now is just wipe over the top. Hopefully you can see that from there. Just wipe over the top of here, making sure there's absolutely nothing down in the cylinders at all. Make sure the cylinder walls are fine, because once we put that head on, that's it. We're not going to be able to get access to this anymore. I've got the crank position locking pin in, so I can do it to top dead center. But when fitting the cylinder head and putting the cams in, you want to make sure that the valves, when the cams turn, don't come down and hit the top of the piston. So if you make sure all the pistons are sort of halfway as they are now, or not at the top dead center, when adjusting the timing on this, you won't hit them. And then when it comes to do the timing, you shift the lower crank pulley into the locking ply, so it'll be top dead center, this one, the others will be lower, and then it means when you do your timing, you're timing it up all correctly. So I've only learnt that from watching a hell of a lot of videos. Again, Chris Ellison's videos, thank you very much for that. I wouldn't have been able to do this without watching your videos. So what I'm going to do now, I might speed up this footage, but I'm going to install one of the head gaskets and then the compression plate, and then another head gasket, and then I'm going to lift the cylinder head on. So this bit will probably be sped up, but I'll leave it as a video for you. So let's see if I can do this bit without any issues. And then what I'll do is I'll talk you through the tightening procedure of the head bolts. You'll find on a lot of head gasket in the actual pack, it gives you some documentation which tells you the tightening order. So one last check of here, it all seems good. The cylinder walls are fine, there's no bits of metal. I have given this a really good clean before a number of times, so just last little touch to make sure there's nothing. Because when a head gasket goes, as I'm sure we've all experienced in our lifetime, maybe more than once, especially if you drive like an arse and don't look after your engine and let it overheat. This is the head gasket which fails, and then you get water mixing with the oil, and that's when you get when you check your coolant, you can see that oil in it, and that's because your head gasket's gone. So we certainly don't want the head gasket going, so let's make sure we get this right. It's the other way up. So that's the first gasket on, and now just going to get the compression plate, which is here. Hopefully you can see all this quite well. I haven't got my camera stand at the moment, so, but again, this is all cleaned up rather nice. It's never been it's been installed and then fastened down or bolted down, but it's never actually ran, so it's not in any bad state or anything. So if we put this one on now, again, this is really new to me, and it's quite anxious, because if you imagine all the time and effort and money that's gone into it, if you mess this bit up, you're going to be absolutely gutted the first time you put it on the rolling road to be tuned and the engine lets go, or the head gasket fails, and then you're back to square one. And as much as I have enjoyed doing some of this, I really don't want to be pulling the engine apart before having to use it for many, many miles to come, hopefully. Okay, that one's on. Next gasket, same brand, same make. I believe it's a decent quality, which is what you want. Don't try not to squeak it on your gaskets, especially your head gasket, because it's not an easy one to replace, as I've previously mentioned. Those are the details that I mentioned before, the tightening procedure. So we'll go through that in a second. Let's put this other gasket on. Faces down. And a little check to make sure there's no bits on it that we don't want. Okay, second new head gasket going on. There we go. Okay, that was, I think the head gasket was £27 if anyone was wondering, and I can give you the details of that if you need it. So that one's on. Next stage, just get this right in my head that it is correct. There's nothing on the top of that gasket. It shouldn't be, because obviously I'll just put it back on. It's looking good, he says. Now there's some raised metal sections here which should keep the gasket in place when I lift the head on. So one last final inspection on the face of the head. On the face that's been skimmed locally, make sure there's no bits in there, and let's lift it into position and hopefully stay in position for some time to come. Okay. Not nervous at all doing this. Better. So I was just wondering why this bolt's not lining up there, and the reason for that is obviously that compression plate is that much thicker, so that bolt there won't line up. However, that's not an issue. What I could potentially do is open that bolt up and put it so it's fixed, but there's plenty of bolts that hold this on, so I'm sure that's going to be absolutely fine. So that's good to see that on. What I'm going to do now is clean each one of the head bolts. Now on Chris Allison's video, sometimes on certain engines you don't need Loctite, or you don't need like a sealant on them. However, after watching Chris Allison's videos, and he's built a number of engines from what I can tell, he put a tiny blob of oil on the bottom there and a tiny bit on the washer, and the reason for that is when you're doing the torque settings, they're free and you don't get a false torque reading. So I'm going to clean each one of these up, slide them into position, and I'll use the new tool that my partner Sean kindly got me for Christmas. So I'll just grab that and let's get back to it. Head bolts in. You would have seen me using the tool here, the new tool. Fantastic bit of kit actually. It's going to be really handy when moving on with other jobs. So you probably saw me using that to tighten these bolts down. I wasn't tightening them down, I was literally putting they're all loose, I was just putting the bolt down to the washer. So when I come and do the tightening sequence now, I've not torqued them up in the wrong order. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it just goes from the inside out, so it's pushing the pressure out. So you tighten them up in 3 stages. I'm going to check what they are now. From the top of my head, I think it's 15, 30 and then 90-degree turn, but I'm going to just check on my phone that, because this is a really important stage, and I'll start tightening them up. I'll get the trusty torque wrench out and we'll have a look at tightening the head down. Okay, so far so good. So just to recap, the head bolts were 15 Newton meters in the 10 bolt order. Then you go over them again, do 30 Newton meters again in the 10 bolt order, and then 90 degrees. So you might have probably seen in the time lapse I was putting the bar in along with the block, and then I know 90 degrees is definitely here, so it makes it a lot easier to make sure you're doing a good 90 if you put it on in line with the cylinder head each time. So they're 90, so that's the head bolted down. Now, because the holes at the top where the spark plugs go, there's always a concern that something could drop down into the head, which is what you really don't want. You have to take it all off again. So I've put the spark plugs in. I've just checked the torque settings, and they're 15 Newton meters. So I've done 15 Newton meters with the torque wrench. So just loosen that off. I've mentioned it before, but you should always loosen your torque wrench off afterwards. You don't want to leave it torted up because it changes the accuracy of it. So yeah, they're all in. Really happy so far. What I'll do now obviously at the moment all the valves are closed, so there's no way anything can get in there, but once I start putting the cams on and the cams start pushing down on these and open up the valves, there's a possibility then that if anything goes in here, it will slip down again into the head. So what I might do now is just put some tape on there for now, just to be safe. And then after that, I'm going to start looking at fitting the brand new cams. For anybody who hasn't watched the cat channel before, they're Piper cams. I did originally send off my original ones to be reshimmed. However, I was told once you reshimmed, you needed to get reprofiled, sorry, my original ones to be reprofiled. I was told that you would then need to replace the shims. Now the shims are the things that live under the buckets, and you need to make sure they're within spec, which is using, let's find the tool now, so good, this tool here, and that comes to what I was referring to earlier about the valve clearance. So I'll check they're all in spec once the cams are on. So I really hope they are. I don't want to be faffing around having to change the shims, because that means taking it on and off, lifting up the bucket, replacing the shim, and making sure it's in spec. So fingers crossed the cams that I've got work without any changes like that. So I'm just going to move this out of the way for a second. All of this, you can see there's a lot of metal filings here. I should have probably cleaned that up beforehand, but you'll probably see that each time I'm putting anything towards or near the engine, I am giving it a good wipe over. So the next thing is, again, this has all been laid out the way it's come off, so I should be able to get these on back onto the engine. I've obviously got the timing tool, which I'll be using in a minute, which is over here. That's a spare gasket that I've got that I won't need, but possibly for a future build. And this is the cam timing tool. This will go on the end here to line the cams up shortly. But for now, I'm just going to recap on one of the videos I've been watching. Again, Chris Allison one, so thanks for that, Chris. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cams out of the bags and lay them into position. Use some assembly lube, as I previously mentioned, and that will go along these parts here and on here, as I said. So when the engine first turns over, it's not metal on metal and waiting for the oil, because the oil squirts out of here, you see. Excuse me. So with the assembly lube being there, obviously it doesn't mean that it's starting dry, if you like. So yeah, let's get the cams open. Let's do a little bit of research, make sure I'm on top of things, and first thing to do is I'm going to tape this up. So I'll see you in a second. Right, we're getting somewhere. So let me just talk you through what I've done now. So I've put the cams in. Now when putting the cams in, you have to be careful, because obviously you can snap the cam or damage the cam. If you try and tighten one of the cam cover, one of these down fully, and then try and tighten that one, you're putting pressure in the middle because it's not pushed all the buckets down and the valves down. So what you need to do is when you're putting the covers on, is go round each bolt. It'll find when one's tight, another one will be loose, and you just work them around slowly. So you do them all up steadily to bring it down into position slowly, not all in one go, as you'll damage it. So that's what you saw me do on the exhaust side and then the inlet side. What I need to do now is just double check how you do the valve clearances to make sure that they're all in spec. I believe is that you put the exhaust or the inlet lobe completely opposite the bucket, and then if you look in there's a small gap. I don't know if you can quite see it there. Let's find one where you might be able to see. I can't think you can, but you can see that's pushing the buckets down. So there'll be a gap between the bottom of this and the bucket once it's in that position. So I need to use this tool to figure out the distances. So I'm just going to check that's the correct way of doing it. So I'll move the cam round to the lobes opposite, measure the distance, move it round against the cams opposite, measure the distance, and keep doing that all the way through. So I've got a piece of paper and I'll mark all the numbers on. So if any of that are out, it'll be a pain. I'll have to take it all off and then get replacement shims and change the shim in order to give the correct clearance. I hope that makes sense. It's a bit confusing for myself, to be quite honest, but I'm going to write the numbers down, check the clearances, and see where we're at. So that's what you're going to see me doing. It won't be that interesting, so I'll put it on time lapse, but then we'll fast forward it quite a lot. Well, that is a massive relief. I didn't put you on time lapse then because it was just taking ages. So basically, I was using the feeler gauges. So 0.8 all the way up, sorry, 0.8 all the way up to 0.013, which is in the spec. And then what I did is wrote down the gap each one of these took. So between the top one there was 9, 9, 9, 9, 10, 10, 8 and 8. And I know that it's between 8 and 10, if that makes sense. I did the same on the bottom, which was 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12 and 12. So all consistent, all very close at the top there, 8s, 10s and 8s. Which means they're all, in long and short of it, is they're all in spec. None of them, no measurement was... So fancy that, the battery died. So yeah, as I was saying, I can't remember exactly what I was saying, but these are the distances for the valve clearance, and as you can see, they're all within the... Oh, just put my finger in oil. Brilliant, superb, excellent. Let's try again, shall we? They're all within spec, the long and short of it, between that 8 and 12, so which is great. So it doesn't mean I had to take any of the cams back out, change any of the lifters. So yeah, that's great. So I've done all of these down to 8 Newton meters. I've got to do them to 17 now, so I'm going to torque them up to 17. Then I'm going to start having a look at putting the tool in, lining these up. What I did notice on Chris Allison's video is he said if once this lobes are facing that way and the other one's facing this way, you know you'll be about there. So I'll put them in about in position. Then what I'm going to do is I'll put the locking tool in. Then, because I know at the minute all the pistons are sort of halfway down, the locking pin is in, so I can turn the main pulley, which will bring the first cylinder up to top dead center. And when that's at top dead center locked, then I know I can put the timing belt on, put all the cogs on, take the tensioner off, and then torque up the pulleys, and I'll know then that it's in timing. And then once it's all timed up, I can take out the timing plate and I'll know that it's done correctly. So what you'll see me doing now, by the way, I can't know if you tell, I'm super happy with the fact that I didn't have to replace any shims and I didn't have to take any of this off again, so that's bloody brilliant. So I'll put you on time lapse. I'm going to do these to 17 Newton meters, put the timing tool in, which you'll see, and hopefully we can start progressing a bit further. So excellent today so far, really happy with how it's turning out. So let's crack on and let's see what else we can achieve for today. So apologies, I didn't realise that the camera battery had gone flat. So what have I done in the meantime since then is I've put the tensioner on. So this was compressed, I had the pin in, I tightened this up, I think it was 30, I can't remember the top of my head, and this was 20, I think. You'd have to double check those. I can check for you and probably put the details on the screen for you now. I put the caps on here, these are torqued to 8 and then 17, which is what you've just seen me do. I made sure all of these are done to 8 to 17 as well. The timing tool's still in. The timing pin is still in, so it's butted up right against that. So I made sure that was locked to the right before putting this on. And then when I released the spring pressure, this all torted up at the same time. So the tension between here and here should be the same. So it should be consistent tension all the way around. This has got a little gap there. You should leave a few millimeters in between there, which it's got. It just means that when this compresses back, it's got a little bit of movement that way. So what I've got left to do at the minute is just reading up in a minute to find out what the torque settings are for these, which I'll do in a second. And then what I've got to do is this bolt as well, check what the torque settings are there. Now, what you don't want to do is when torquing these up is just rely on this bar here, because you're putting too much tension on it, and this pin here. So what you need to do is use a spanner, in my case an adjustable spanner because I don't have the right size, and you hold this in position here as you tighten the two bolts up here, and that means you're not putting excess strain on this pin here, because obviously if that snaps in there you're in big trouble. And as I said, you don't want to lock that, so you leave that in the timing until you torque these up to spec. So what I'm going to do now is I'll read in the details I've got to make sure I'm getting the torque settings right, and then what I can do is torque these two up, holding it, and then torque the main pulley up as well at the same time. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to have a look at the documentation and make sure I'm tightening these to spec. So let's have a quick look. Okay, that's done. That is a workout. This is 40 Newton meters, and then believe it or not, a 90 degrees. So from there and then another basically quarter turn, I'm pretty much there. I think I've got back to 80 degrees. I can't go anymore because I fear of breaking it, and I'm pretty certain it's as close as you can get. As you can tell, I'm rather out of breath after that, but I believe I've just timed at my first engine. Now that it's all timed, I should be able to take out the tool here, the timing tool, and the pin. Pretty thin stuff. Can't roll that at the moment actually because this is still in. So if we take this out, I'll double check, but I believe the bolt that goes back in it is 38. I'll double check that now, and let's get that back in. So I'll screw this up to torque, and you'll also see me take out the timing bar as well. So let's put you on time lapse, but we're really making progress here. I think the next thing to go on is the engine thing here. So let's have a look. Well, it's been a long old day. I'm not sure what time it is. What time is it? I think I came in about 1, so about 5 hours, but as you can see, it's really beginning to take shape. The engine's all timed up. I'm pretty confident. Oh, I'm confident that it is timed up correctly. The spark plugs are in there to stop anything dropping in. I've started putting all the auxiliary bits on. I was going to replace the power steering pump, however, after looking online, they're all black anyway, and it's not that bad condition to clean that up a little bit. I think this is the correct pulley here, and I'm missing another pulley which should pull all this. So usually the air conditioning unit would be down there where that pulley is, but as you can see, that's where the supercharger is now. There's another pre-tensioner pulley which I'm missing. I've got another one of those, but I'm missing the actual bracket, which I believe goes down here. I need to look into it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's another one that comes down here which tightens it all up. So as you can see, that's all of these are lining up quite well. I've put the inlet on. I need to get some proper bolts for this, I've noticed. Also, I need to figure out if these are just normal bolts that go in there as opposed to these threads that you usually get on the these would be your exhaust ones. I haven't said that, they're too big, I think. Where are the other ones? So these go on for your manifold. I'll screw those in. I'll find all of those because this is the exhaust side. It's coming quite nicely. I'll probably finish up with doing those today, but I am really happy with what I managed to achieve. I need to clean the inside of this out and put the gasket in and sealant and seal that on. I'll have to undo this plastic cover again, or the top part, to put it back on. I damaged this gasket in there, as you can see. thinking I could get a replacement, and I can't, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do there yet. What I might do is leave the remaining gasket that's in there and then put a lot of RTV sealer on it and see if that holds. But it'd be good to get that cover on, and then I can start building other stuff around it. But yeah, I'm so happy with what I've managed to do today. Got another lifting bracket on there. I'm pretty certain those bolts are correct. I've still got to swap these bolts over. There's a bolt on the alternator which I can't find at the minute, which goes in here. I need to figure out the bolts on the starter motor. If the 3 go on here and then you screw them up this way, or that, yeah, screw that way. But I don't know if the gearbox needs to be on first in order to do that. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it's come up. I feel as though I've made some real good progress today, and I think that's the inlet's going to look awesome. What I might do is lightly, I don't know if I can lightly sand that and clean it up a bit, but it is looking great. I was a bit worried about the clearances down here, but as you can see, it's really close to where the inlet, near the alternator. The pulley seems to be lining up well, so fair play to Warren on whoever helped him build this bracket. Seems to be okay. I found spoke to Warren, there's a little there's a metal bracket, which is, I believe this is it, which I powder coated. This somehow attaches onto the engine and holds this fixed, so it's in a fixed position, because obviously you don't want to have that. Okay, these are loose at the moment, but this will need to be very secure in order to make sure that that stays in line. But looking at that at the moment, it seems really good. Not sure what else to mention really. The fuel rail I got out. Now these, for any new subscribers, Warren had some work done on the standard injectors and had them upgraded, so there shouldn't be they should be more than enough for the challenge with the increase of brake horsepower that I'll be getting. So that'll go on there eventually. I'll probably clean these bolts up. I took that off to have a look. As I said, I'll be doing some research on which bolts I need for here and get a fresh set. But I'm pretty confident the bolts I've been finding and using are correct. Oh, that's heavy now. But yeah, I am, as I said, really happy with what I managed to do. So now I'm going to go and have a few cans of that and get off cut. And yeah, and that's it for today. Hopefully I'll be back in tomorrow with some of the bits, and if I do some more research tonight as in what I need to do bolts wise for this, there's this part that goes here, but it's not been powder coated yet, so I need to take that to get shot blasted and powder coated, so that's going to hold me up a little bit. But yeah, again, I'm really happy. So that's going to be it for now. It's probably going to be quite a long video, this one, so I hope it's been interesting enough for you, and I hope in the long run it helps other people out when they come to build theirs. So yeah, that's going to be it for now. So this could be the end of one video, and I'll do another video, but if not, I'll take it on to the end of this. So thanks all for watching. I think we're up to 329 subscribers now, so that's good to crack the 300 mark. And yeah, thanks very much again. Catch you soon.